Now the runner's about to file out onto the racing line here. Seamus O'Neill heading across the rostrum, checks his watch. Bob Mann marshalling them from ground level. And the field of 11 about to turn to face the starter. So we're not too far away from a start. Well, they're beginning to walk in now. Bob Mann's given them the all clear from the ground. Seamus O'Neill flag in hand. And the field beginning to advance on the tapes for this Fraser Wealth Management handicap chase. Flags are raised. Being told to hang on in front. They're off. Jump away with a relatively short run to the first of the 18 fences. Sporting Boy in a red and yellow jacket is prominent, and so too Premier King in the cheek pieces, and it will be Premier King who rises just in front. Lands about a length clear. All handle it safely, scoop the pot with a start cap held up towards the rear of the field with owner mate above board the white cap, and they make their way on towards fence 2. Premier King then from Sporting Boy, Lofgren in a striped jacket tracking the leading pair, and then Shady Glen in the pink and blue wide of Marquis of Carabas. Aussie Thomas with the yellow sleeves and cap towards midfield, upsides the nose-banded Walt, and then Fort Gabriel, who's in the back third in a starred jacket, crossing the first of the open ditches. Shady Glen just backed off it a little. Last year's winner, the Clock Leary, grey and red silks, is in the last group of 3 early on, tracked by Scoop the Pot and above board as they take the turn towards the end of half a mile. Be about 10 lengths covering the field on the approach to fence 4, and Premier King and Harry Skelton dictating to Sporting Boy racing on the far side of Lofgren, and then Shady Glen to Marquis of Carabas in a start jacket. Aussie Thomas down on the inner, quite keen under restraint in midfield. Over fence 4 they go. Again, Shady Glen wasn't quite as fluent as 1 or 2 of those around him. Fort Gabriel and Walt sitting in mid-division ahead of the Clock Leary, and then above board with a white cap, and finally Scoop the Pot in the hands of Richard Johnson. On to the 5th they go, another plain fence. Premier King is shifting a little out to his right, but over neatly enough, and now it's a relatively short run to another open ditch. Premier King, big leap from Sporting Boy, little overbowled if anything, rather ballooned in, out jumped by Lofgren, down on the inner in the stripes, heading on now towards fence 7. Premier King from Lofgren and Sporting Boy, the leading trio. Again, Premier King going out to his right, and at the other end of the field once more, Scoop the Pot was the last to touch down, and at this stage is just 2 or 3 lengths detached in the hands of the champion jockey. So Premier King rounding the next bend on the approach to the next pair of fences, and with a 2 to 3 length lead, being followed in second by Lofgren, and then Sporting Boy on the outer. Aussie Thomas sneaking a little bit closer up the inner, the yellow sleeves and cap, and then Marquis of Carabas towards the centre in a starred jacket, and Shady Glen out wider in the pink and blue, rising. Sheepskin nose-banded Walt the next over, followed by the Clock Leary in a grey jacket. Fort Gabriel on the extreme left with the red sleeves, and then above board and Scoop the Pot, and they're now closing in on fence 9, approaching the halfway point. Premier King over in front, jumping soundly. Be about 8 lengths covering the field. Fort Gabriel gets a reminder, having dropped back to dispute last place, and under the judge they go. So circuit completed in the Fraser Wealth Management handicap chase. Premier King, who's been in front from an early stage, having made all the score at Uttoxeter last time by a wide margin. He's only a couple of lengths up at this stage to Lofgren on the inner, a Sporting Boy, and then Marquis of Carabas, the starred jacket, racing wide of Aussie Thomas. Walt in mid-division, yellow jacket, and Shady Glen is the next over from the Clock Leary, and then above board, Scoop the Pot, the star on the cap for Richard Johnson, and again Fort Gabriel is being ridden along last of the field. Heading on towards fence 11, Premier King. Over quickly enough. 2 up still on Lofgren and Sporting Boy, who dispute second. Marquis of Carabas in the Stars is right behind the leading trio. Walters pulled towards the outer, seeing a bit of daylight there in the sheepskin noseband as Premier King ups the ante going into the open ditch. Beginning to string the field out here. At this stage, Scoop the Pot isn't really threatening to get competitive. He's dropped back into last position, having been passed again by Fort Gabriel as they take the D-bend with a mile to travel and a further 6 fences to jump. Premier King still being stalked by Lofgren and the white-faced Sporting Boy. Then Walt with Ozzy Thomas towards the inner. Marquis of Carabas out wide. Above board with a white cap making steady headway under Aidan Coleman. Then the Clock Leary in a grey jacket just ahead of Shady Glen and Fort Gabriel. And there'll be a gap of 6 or 7 lengths to above board who's being eased off and looks like pulling up and indeed is about to be pulled up. So heading towards the next fence 14. Premier King, again shifting right-handed. It's become a feature so far, but he remains 2 lengths clear with Marquis of Carabas improving to go second, and more markedly out to the right there, Premier King. Walt had a bit of a collision in the air with above board. Sporting Boy has weakened away pretty sharply, and it's Premier King at the third last, pursued by Marquis of Carabas. 3 lengths between them. Lofgren landed in third, then above board with a white cap wide of Ozzy Thomas. Break of a couple of lengths to Walt, and Premier King extending his advantage. Harry Skelton glancing in behind. He'll see that he's now about 5 lengths clear of above board with the white cap, who's staying on under pressure to dispute second with Marquis of Carabas in the centre and Lofgren on the right. They in turn are being chased hard by Ozzy Thomas, and a gap of 5 or 6 lengths to Walt. Premier King over the second last, again out to his right. The lead was only 3 lengths. Lofgren is sticking on pretty doubtily under pressure, so too above board, and then Marquis of Carabas. So Premier King just having to work hard here to maintain his advantage, but he's still a couple clear at the last. Out to his right again, over safely enough from Lofgren, who was steering the straighter course in the air. Premier King pursued halfway up the run-in by Lofgren, who's inching a little bit closer. Premier King, though, is doing enough and will complete the hat-trick. Sees off Lofgren with above board back in third and Marquis of Carabas in fourth, ahead of Ozzy Thomas.
The result of our third and feature race of this afternoon's card. First, number 11, Premier King. Second, number 7. Third, number 3. And the fourth placed horse, number 2. The full result to the Fraser Wealth Management Handicap Steeplechase. First, number 11, Premier King. Second, number 7, Lofgren. Third, number 3, Above Board. And the fourth placed horse, number 2, Marquis of Carabas. The distances were 1.5 lengths and 8 lengths. 1.5 lengths and 8 lengths.
Well, they're on quite some roll at the moment, the Skeltons, aren't they? Dan and Harry teaming up again here for 3 wins in a very short space of time for our winner there. And I think we can kiss goodbye to the intended mark of 125 because he's going to go up again on the back of that. A terrific performance there in our Fraser Wealth Management Handicap Chase, and winner number 73 for the season for jockey Harry Skelton. Your winner is Premier King.
And the starting price is first, number 11, Premier King, the 6-5 favourite. Second, number 7, Lofgren at 10 to 1. And third.